We have talked a lot about the decline of ESPN here on the channel. Most of the time, when we're talking about that, it is in relation to ESPN, the television network. We've briefly touched in the past on the decline of ESPN Radio before, but I don't know if I have ever dedicated a full video to the downfall of ESPN Radio. I saw an expose on Outkick by Bobby Burak a couple of hours ago, and it kind of prompted the idea for this video. For those of us that are old enough to remember, ESPN Radio, they used to be the leader in sports talk radio. This was an entity that made hundreds of millions of dollars. You could not beat the lineup that they had. Mike and Mike in the Morning, which was never my favorite show. I didn't really like Mike and Mike. I thought the show was too safe, too vanilla. It wasn't controversial enough for me, which in radio, typically, you kind of need to be controversial to attract an audience. But Mike and Mike proved that theory wrong. The show worked. There were millions of people who enjoyed Mike and Mike in the Morning. They were the longest running show on ESPN Radio. Matter of fact, I still think they're the longest running show on ESPN Radio. Now, you followed that with Colin Cowherd, who I think is unbelievably talented and entertaining. Colin Cowherd is one of a kind. He's different. He's unique. His perspective is unique. Then you had Dan Patrick following Colin Cowherd's for Afternoon Drive. Now just think about that lineup. You had four legends in sports broadcasting at the same network at the same time. All ESPN had to do was keep them. That's it. It's it. It should have been so simple, should not have been difficult. The beginning of the end of ESPN Radio was when Dan Patrick left back in 2007. At the time, a lot of people thought that he was crazy for doing what he did. There were a lot of people that thought that it was going to be the end of Dan Patrick's career. He made the decision to leave. ESPN, to their credit, they tried to keep him. But like I said, most people thought that Dan Patrick was out of his mind for leaving the massive platform of ESPN Radio to go independent. But it worked. And he paved the way for everyone else who eventually followed. Dan Patrick proved that you did not need ESPN to make it. ESPN also lost Colin Cowherd, lost him to Fox over creative differences. Colin Cowherd, back in 2015, he saw the future. 6 years ago, he knew the future was podcasting, streaming. He wanted the rights to his own content. ESPN wouldn't give it to him. They would not budge. Colin Cowherd left, and his career has flourished while ESPN Radio has declined. But even without Colin Cowherd, even without Dan Patrick, ESPN thought they were in good shape. They still had their flagship show, Mike and Mike. They were set for morning drive, which is the most important time slot in talk radio. But ESPN found a way to screw that up too. They split Mike and Mike on their own volition. And from what I can remember, I think it caught Mike Golick by surprise. He was not happy about it. And who the hell can blame him? You have something that has worked for 20 plus years and you want to destroy it? It didn't make any sense. ESPN Radio has never recovered. They have yet to find a replacement for any of the three shows that I just mentioned. They have shuffled the lineup over the last 3 or 4 years so many times, it's hard to keep up with it. They tried to replace Colin Cowherd with Dan Le Batard. Should not have been hard to figure out. That wasn't going to work. Dan Le Batard does not have the ability to appeal to a mainstream audience. He is a niche personality. He was popular in Miami, that's fine, but that's it. Dan Le Batard did not work nationally, which is why ESPN lost both affiliates in Los Angeles and New York City, the two biggest radio markets in the country. But none of this should have happened. This should not have happened. Clear Channel and Viacom had given ESPN the blueprint of what not to do when you have talented radio personalities. For 25 years, executives at Clear Channel took advantage of Howard Stern. Look, Howard Stern could be a pain in the ass to deal with. He was constantly getting fined by the FCC. He commanded millions of dollars every year. He was always pissing people off. They probably had a complaint department just to handle calls from Howard Stern. But Howard Stern was drawing 20 million listeners every week. The average Howard Stern listener listened to the show for over 90 minutes, which was unheard of in talk radio at the time. When Sirius approached Howard Stern with an offer, Clear Channel and Viacom let him go. He was worth every bit of the $100 million he got from Sirius. Clear Channel and Viacom didn't see it that way. The thinking was, we can just put David Lee Roth on in Morning Drive and he will draw the same audience as Howard Stern. Show didn't last 3 months. And here we are 15 years later in Clear Channel. They still haven't found a replacement for Howard Stern. Just like ESPN Radio hasn't found a replacement for Colin Cowherd or Dan Patrick. As you guys know, ESPN has positioned itself as the diversity network in recent years. Gone were the days where 4 white guys could be on the lineup. We need some diversity. Talent doesn't matter. All that matters is diversity. They marketed Bomani Jones as their next big radio star. The problem was, no one else saw it that way. With Bomani Jones and Afternoon Drive, ESPN Radio went from being at the top of many of their affiliate markets to the lowest ratings in the history of ESPN Radio. Bomani Jones sucked so bad, he lost 90 affiliates across the country. Then they tried Stephen A. Smith as a replacement for Dan Patrick and Colin Cowherd. Problem with that was they had to bump Ryan Russillo out of that time slot. Ryan Russillo at the time was one of the lone bright spots at ESPN Radio, at a time where they were constantly shuffling on-air talent. Now, of course, ESPN didn't see it that way. They treated Ryan Russillo like they treat most people with actual talent who don't fit into their narrative, which means they treated Ryan Russillo like shit. Stephen A. Smith didn't work either, but I don't think Stephen A. really wanted to be in radio. I think he was just doing ESPN a favor, merely filling in until they could find a suitable replacement. Then ESPN Radio lucked into Will Cain. Finally, they had someone with drawing power, with personality. Will Cain was so successful, he was able to regain affiliates in Los Angeles, affiliates who were previously turned off by Dan Le Batard. Will Cain increased ratings by 18%. Now, of course, ESPN couldn't keep him either. He left for Fox News. So here we were, in August of 2020, with yet another new lineup for ESPN Radio. And my God, what a lineup it was. Keyshawn Johnson, Jason Williams, and Zubin in Morning Drive. Garbage. Dan Le Batard, mid-morning. Trash. Mike Greenberg, early afternoon. Max Kellerman in Afternoon Drive. Garbage. That lineup was so successful, ratings dropped 53% in 4 months. Which brings us up to the present time, with ESPN once again shuffling their lineup. Throwing something at the wall, just praying to God someone sticks, someone resonates with the audience. Is it going to work? Probably not. I've talked to you guys many times before about how ESPN bases their talent decisions on race. They are so concerned with appealing to the woke agenda, which is estimated to be about 10% of the population, that nothing else matters. ESPN feels as long as they're compliant, everything will be fine. It's not. Here's the thing about talk radio and podcasting in general, television in general. The audience does not care about your race. They don't care about your political beliefs. All the audience cares about is, are you entertaining? Can you hold their attention? It doesn't matter if you're black, white, green, red. None of that matters. ESPN made the same mistake with its radio division as it did on television. They just replaced Rachel Nichols with Malika Andrews after trying to replace Rachel Nichols with Maria Taylor. That is the equivalent of replacing Colin Cowherd with Bomani Jones. The star power, the talent level, it's not even close. ESPN has taken a golden goose in ESPN Radio and turned it into a fart at a picnic. They don't have one on-air personality that can draw an audience. Matter of fact, outside of Stephen A. Smith, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone at ESPN, television or radio, that has the ability to attract an audience. I don't agree much with Stephen A. Smith these days, but I can't knock his talent. He creates controversy. He's entertaining. He's worth every penny of the $12 million that ESPN pays him. But outside of Stephen A. Smith, ESPN doesn't have any stars. And they're in a star-driven business, and they don't have any stars on the rise either. I've compared ESPN to WWE in the past. Both companies, they find themselves in the same situation for two completely different reasons. WWE is being driven into the ground by a man in his mid-70s who has been out of touch with his audience and reality for over a decade. And ESPN's being driven into the ground because of its willingness to bow to the agenda. ESPN Radio is dead, and it's not coming back. Their television business is following the same path. Time to let me know what you guys think. Do you guys remember the golden age of ESPN Radio? And do any of you out there, do you guys listen to ESPN Radio anymore? Sound off in the comments below. Let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com. KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.